It's time for Doodle Mania. That's a little game we play here, and kids send me art, little doodles, and I try to make something out of it while I tell a story. Like, why does God allow bad things to happen? The story of Joseph. Well, I don't know if you know much about Joseph, but he had 11 brothers, and none of them liked him. I don't know if you have problems with your brothers, but I'll bet you they've never thrown you into a pit and then decided to sell you to the Ishmaelites as a slave. Well, that's what happened to Joseph. This first design here is from our friend Hannah. She sent me the design of these little things, so we're turning them into pyramids because that's exactly where the Ishmaelites took Joseph to be a slave, Egypt. So they traveled down there, and he ended up in the house of a guy named Potiphar. Joseph did a really good job as a servant, a slave. In fact, pretty soon he got a promotion. He was running the entire house for Potiphar, but he had to wait on him, serve meals, arrange for food for Potiphar's family as well as all the other servants in the house. Potiphar really liked Joseph because he did such a good job and God was with him. This next little design was sent in from our friend Dottie Mae. And I wasn't sure what to make out of this one, but then I had an idea. Potiphar wasn't the only one who liked Joseph. Potiphar's wife kind of had I guess I could say a crush on Joseph. And she wanted to be his girlfriend, and Joseph wouldn't have anything to do with it. She'd even spy on him through the other room, through the door there. As you can see, she really liked Joseph. So one day when no one was around, she wanted Joseph to come over and kiss her. And he said, "No way. Thank you, Asher, for this great design. We're going to take it into Joseph running away from Mrs. Potiphar." So he got out of there as quickly as he could and escaped from Mrs. Potiphar. In fact, he left in such a hurry. Thank you, Peter. This is Peter's design here. He left in such a hurry that she held onto his coat and grabbed it and decided to lie to her husband, Potiphar, and say that it was Joseph who was trying to attack her. And he probably said, "Well, wait a minute. How do we know that was his coat?" She says, "His name is right here on it." Well, unfortunately, Joseph got in trouble and ended up actually going to prison back there. So he ended up being lonely and forgotten in a prison cell in the dungeon of Potiphar's house for years and years. It wasn't too fun for him. But in the meantime, he met a couple of guys that worked for the Pharaoh, who was the president, the king, or the leader of Egypt. They told him all about Joseph, and Pharaoh wanted to meet this guy. And ultimately, you'll have to read the whole story. It's in the book of Genesis. But ultimately, Joseph, after all his time as a slave and as a prisoner, ended up being the second in command, almost like the vice president of Egypt. But he had to go through that hard time, so God knew that he was ready to be a leader and save not only Egypt, but ultimately Israel. So why does God allow bad things to happen? Well, it's hard to say. Sometimes he might just want us to call out to him for help or get to know him through the hard stuff. But in Joseph's case, God knew he had this giant blessing waiting for Joseph, but he knew he needed to go through the pit, Potiphar's house, and prison to prepare Joseph to be the leader of the known world. Well, no matter what we're going through, remember that God loves you and always has your best in mind. Hey, thanks to Hannah, Dottie Mae, Asher, and Peter for your great doodles, and we'll see you next time.